Hi folks, Bernard Kelly here. I'm going to keep this really short but very incisive, and this video is all about dealing with depression. So if you're suffering from depression, you're not feeling so good, please follow along for the next few minutes, and I guarantee you, if you implement what I'm talking about, you're basically going to get significant change. First thing you got to realize though in dealing with depression is that all of the depression, the depressed feelings, etc., are coming through your thinking. So what I'm talking about here is it's the thoughts that are coming into your conscious mind. And effectively those thoughts will stay in your mind hour after hour. First thing you got to realize when you're dealing with depression is that the thoughts that you have that are in your mind, they are the thoughts that are creating the depressed feelings. Now, regardless of what anybody tells you, it's impossible for you to have feelings of depression without having thoughts of depression. So your first clue in solving depression is to realize that it's coming from your thinking. Now, people may say, well, how do I deal with my thinking? How do I stop my thinking? But before we get into that area, the more you repeat thoughts in your head over and over, as I said to you, you're going to change the feelings which are producing the feelings of depression, and they in turn create all of these beliefs that you have about yourself in relation to, I cannot end the depressed feelings that I have, it's outside of my control, there's nothing I can do about it. But the reality of it is that what you're doing at the moment is, if you go in, for instance, and you have to do something, and your depression jumps up straight away and says, no, I can't do that. That's the equivalent to having a mental frame. And in the mental frame, you've got all the feelings and the thoughts of being depressed, and that it's difficult for you to function on a day-to-day basis. And what you have to do in life, or what you are looking at or dealing with in life, is on the other side of that frame. So it's you, the frame, and what you're having to deal with. The bottom line is, the difference between a person who's depressed and the person who isn't depressed is the person who's not depressed has a different mental frame in there. So what happens if we pull that mental frame away? When we pull that mental frame away, depression cannot exist. So how do we actually start with removing the frame? Now, the first thing, of course, you've got to be convinced of is that there's a mental frame in there, and that mental frame is made up of thinking, feelings and beliefs. If we pull that away, then we remove the depression. Okay, so how would we make a start on this? The first thing I want you to do from now on, when thoughts come into your head about being depressed, what I want you to do is, I want you to almost step back from those thoughts for a moment and just observe them. I don't want you to get rid of them. I don't want you to stop them. I want you to actually observe them. I don't want you to think about them though, which is a huge difference. I just want you to allow them to be there. And miraculously, if you allow them to be there without thinking about them, they can't exist. Now, if they can't exist, they're gone. And what I'm now actually getting you to do is to realize that you have an identity separate from those thoughts of depression. They're not you. And in many ways they could even be likened to being stuck onto you, but they're not you in your essence. So what happens is, you don't be afraid of them, you don't fear them, you just allow them to be. So next time they pop up, they'll look for your attention, they'll try and get you to think about them, but realize one thing, they can't think on their own, and they have no life on their own outside of the life that you give them. So the ironic thing is that you're completely in control of them. And the moment you start to believe that you're in control of them, guess what? You start to weaken their power. And the first step that you take in doing this process is to observe them, stand back from them, and watch them. And watch them almost like, in a way, waving at you, looking for your attention. But I don't want you to give them your attention. And what I want you to do is, instead of actually thinking about them, I just want you to notice them. And when you just notice them and allow them to be there, they will simply dissolve. They will dissolve because you are no longer giving them your attention. You're aware that they're there, but you're making the decision not to think about them. The moment you decide not to think about them, you separate yourself from them. They're no longer then part of your identity, and because they're not part of your identity, they have no life unless you decide to give them life. That's a key tool that you can implement immediately. You don't need to wait till tomorrow. You can actually start to do this now. You can actually even start to do this as you're looking at this video. The second thing I want you to do is, I want you to actually go to bed tonight, and before you close your eyes, I want you to picture in your mind's eye what life would be like with no depression at all. So just imagine that you're completely cured of the depression. It no longer exists. But I want you to picture in your head that it's already gone. Not that I want it gone, but that it's already gone. Now you may say to me, what's the value in doing that? The value in doing that is that you've currently got pictures in your head about being depressed. So you currently believe you are depressed. Now you may want all you like to get rid of the depression, but wanting isn't enough. So instead what I want you to do tonight is, I want you to picture in your mind's eye life without the depression. I want you to role play that in your head, what it looks like, what it would feel like. I want you to implement the two techniques. First of all is to keep the distance separate yourself from the depression. Look at the thoughts that come into your mind but don't think about them. And that completely disempowers those thoughts. If those thoughts are not activating in your mind, depression can't exist. And the second thing that I want you to do is, I want you to start every single day to picture, to mentally visualize what it is that you want to happen, but believing in your mind that you've already got it. So I want you to role play that in your head, and the more you play that over and over in your mind, you're now almost burning in a new program into your mental screen, so to speak. So instead of being worried and feeling depressed all the time, what will now start to pop up going forward is this new you without the depression. Now I'm going to be recording several other similar type videos going forward in the future, and if you'd like to subscribe to any of those, or indeed give me feedback, please subscribe to the link below. Thank you very much indeed. Best of luck.